My wife, the next First Lady, Jane Sanders. All right, this is going to be a fun meeting because what we're going to do is touch upon an issue that does not get in any way, the kind of discussion that it deserves. You know, as a nation, we have a tendency to sweep some of the most important issues impacting, in many cases, millions of people under the rug. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. You got kids who are hungry, kids who are sleeping out on the street. We don't talk about that. And today we're here to talk about another vulnerable population, that is our seniors. Just came from a very, very good meeting with people who are dealing with the disability community, another group of people who are struggling to get the respect and dignity as human beings that they deserve. But today we're going to focus on any issue you want, but I think most of the focus will be on the needs of seniors. So what we're going to talk about are what are the issues facing seniors, and I think many of you know what they are, but I want to hear from you. Please don't be shy, don't get me intimidated by the TV cameras there. Because it's important, every time somebody stands up and says, you know, this is what happened to my mom, this is what happened to my sister, this is what happened to my father. All over the country, people say, yeah, it's exactly what happened to my family. You're not alone. You're not the only person who experienced that. You know, we know that in America today, you got millions of elderly people trying to get by on $12,000, $13,000 a year Social Security. For the love of God, I can never figure out how somebody can get by on $12,000, $13,000 a year. I don't know how you can. And yet, obviously, when you get old, you're not able to work. You're more vulnerable. You get ill more often. You need more heat. You need more medicine. How do people do it? And what does it say about a society that gives tax breaks to billionaires, but leaves millions of elderly people struggling to pay for the medicine that they need? All right, so those are the issues we're going to talk about. But I am really delighted to have with me a very knowledgeable panel of folks who have firsthand experience dealing with the issues impacting seniors. And they're going to speak briefly. I'll pick up a little bit on what they said and tell you what I have in mind as president, what I think we should be doing. And then we'll open it up to your questions and your comments. So let's begin with Tom Karsner. Tom is the past chair of Johnson County Democrats and a union steward for the American Federation of Teachers, Local 716. Tom, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm a native of Iowa City and have lived there most of my 61 years. For 27 years, I worked at ACT in Iowa City, and as a single person, I was paying about $100 a month for my health care plan. It was good insurance and had about a $200 deductible. But last year, my job was eliminated in a series of layoffs. So for 7 months, I went on the COBRA health insurance program, and my premium jumped 5 times to $500 a month. Then Obamacare came, and that's what I'm presently on this year. It offered me a landing spot for quality, affordable health insurance until I'm eligible for Medicare in 4 years. However, Obamacare has some rules that are limiting. There's no dental, vision, or hearing insurance options. There's only 2 companies offering the plan in Iowa, and there's income limitations with Obamacare. I'm grateful and I'm fortunate to have Obamacare. However, without the subsidy, the same insurance that I had at ACT would cost almost $1,500 a month, almost $20,000 a year for a single person. I'm fortunate, but I'm not that fortunate. If I had to pay that rate without the subsidy, that would really make the insurance unaffordable and unusable. Now, many of my colleagues and friends in this pre-65 age group tell me they too would like to retire early or leave their job and try something else, but they still need to make money before they can stop working in the years before they qualify for Medicare. I don't think anybody who wants to retire should ever have to keep working at a job just because it's their only way to have a stable and affordable health care plan. The Medicare for All plan from Senator Sanders will solve this problem and grant freedom to me and my friends and colleagues. We'll be able to explore other work options without being tied to an employer or worrying about premiums, deductibles, or copays. All of that would be over. We'll be guaranteed dental, vision, and hearing coverage, and we'll have a stable, continuous insurer that lets us keep our provider without wondering if we'd be kicked out of network or have a sudden price increase with a new insurer. But it's not just about me, it's not just about my friends. I would be proud, and my friends would be proud, to live in an America that actually covers all Americans and leaves no one unprotected. I would be proud to be part of a system that takes care of everyone we know and everyone we don't know. When we elect Senator Bernie Sanders, the taxes we pay will go to creating justice in America. That's why I believe in Bernie Sanders. It's why I'm happy to be here with him today and with all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. And I look forward later in this discussion to talk about Medicare for All and some of the misconceptions and lies that you're hearing about it. So, Tom, thanks very much for your thoughts. Kay Fisk is the Vice President of Advocacy and Donor Relations at Horizons Family Services Alliance, the venue and an org dedicated to improving the quality of individual and family lives. Kay, thanks so much for being here.
Absolutely. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Especially to Senator Sanders and Mrs. Sanders, we are delighted to have you here today. This is a very exciting time for Horizons to be able to entertain a person of your stature. As the Senator said, my name is Kay Fisk, and I work here at Horizons. We operate one of the largest Meals on Wheels program, not only just in Iowa, but throughout the country. We feed about 1,000 people every day, and this is done by volunteers throughout the community. Many of the volunteers are in this crowd tonight, and we could always use more, by the way. I'm not going to miss a plug for that. And of course, we have Meals on Wheels congregate meal site guests in the audience as well. So welcome to them. We have received most of our funding, about 60% of it, from the Older Americans Act. And this is a very important funding because it takes care of the meals that we serve to these older adults. Without this funding, we would be in grave difficulty. The House just passed the Older Americans Act through their part of the government, and now it'll be going to the Senate. And I happen to know that the senator is on the committee that works with that particular piece of legislation, so we're counting on him, right, to take care of that? Yes. And I know he will. It will get through the Senate without any difficulty. I can be sure of that.
She was joking.
We need to elect somebody in the White House that is going to understand the needs of older adults. We need to be looking at expanding Social Security. We need to look at Medicare. We want to make sure that seniors are leading a dignified life. We don't want people to be destitute. We want them to live a gracious life, and these are the human rights of every older adult. I support Bernie Sanders, and I truly know that he represents the very best of all people. He looks at the needs of everyone in the community, not just selected people. He can begin to tackle and face the problems in the country by starting with our very own political system and our election process, which we all know has problems. Bernie will wholeheartedly stay centered on working for the people and not accepting money from special interest groups or corporates. Yes. This will indeed keep him from being able to be indebted to people when he gets in the White House, right? All right. He is advocating for every citizen, not just a few. He's advocating for all of us. In my years, I have never seen a more honest, dedicated individual running for president of the United States. He is interested in not only its people, but he's interested in our planet. Our planet. I'm supporting for all of these reasons, but there's more too. I'm an older adult. How many older adults are there out there? Bernie, you're an older adult. All right, let's all work together. Let's start by electing the one and only person that will make a difference in Washington.
All right.
Okay, thank you for being here. Thank you for what you're doing. And we'll talk about nutrition, Meals on Wheels, congregate meals program, housing, and so forth in a bit. Judy Ahrens is a retiree who, among many other accomplishments, was the advanced press member for the Secretary of Agriculture. Judy?
Thank you, Senator. I've lived in Cedar Rapids since the 60s the first time, moved away to go to Washington, D.C. with President Carter, and then went to California and then back here. But I'm sorry, okay. I've been involved in politics since I was about 14 years old. And once in a while you come across a candidate that just reaches into your heart and your soul, and that's Bernie Sanders. I have admired him for many years and oftentimes wished we had had him for a senator here. And he could replace either one of them. It wouldn't matter. But as president, he can do the work of the senator of all of our states, and all of us will benefit from it. I believe in a universal health care plan and have for many years. My oldest brother was a family physician back in the 50s, and he had made the comment then, excuse me, that the day would come when we will have socialized medicine in this country, and it'll be brought on by the greed of the medical profession. He saw patients that wouldn't get their medicines picked up in a town 20 miles away because he was in a small town that didn't have any place they could get drugs. So he opened up his own and made sure they got their medicine through the office. He dropped his membership in the AMA when they came out against Medicare. He said any one major illness and his patients could lose everything they've worked a lifetime to get. And you know, nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing has changed. We should just be appalled. No one ever asked, where are you going to get the money for a war? Yeah. I think if anything, it's gotten worse, our health care, because everything has gotten so much more expensive. And I had worked with a man that worked for an accounting firm that did taxes for doctors, and a lot of them, he said, we're making $14 million a year. That's in a town of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I have a problem with that. And my son was between jobs. His insurance went up $600 a month. He thought, well, I'm in good health. I don't have anything. When I go back to work, and I know this story has been told by many people out there, but he thought, well, when I go back to work, I can get my insurance. Well, in the meantime, he got diagnosed with bladder cancer. And because he didn't have insurance, he had to go to the LA County hospital. That meant You take a sleeping bag, you take food, you take water, because you could sit there for 48 hours before you would see a doctor. So he finally got some insurance through the state of California. But trust me, we do not rank top in the world for healthcare. We rank about 50, and we're number one for cost. And I don't understand why more people aren't just standing up outraged over what happens in this country with our citizens. And COBRA isn't the answer either. Because like Tom was saying, the price on that is unbelievable for people. People just get too comfortable sometimes and think they're not ever going to be in a position where they're going to need help from the government or help on medical care. And no one can afford to be that comfortable today living in the United States. And it was a broken system back in the 50s, and it's still a broken system today. I worked as a lobbyist for some pretty large corporations. ADM, I'm sure all of you here are familiar with that one. With the ethanol bill, I got that through in California. But you know, I got to thinking about this after I was no longer working, that all the people out there that don't have the luxury of having a lobbyist fighting for them in Des Moines, Washington, D.C., Sacramento, California. It's a sad situation, and this is why when I was chairman of the Government and Law Committee, I said, get rid of the box so people can go back to work. They've served their sentence, and I think everyone should be allowed to vote. I don't care what the circumstances is. That has nothing to do with their crime.
Judy, thanks very much. Thanks for your work and your comments.
Thank you.
Just want to say a few words, and we'll open it up, and panelists, feel free to join the discussion. And mostly, I just want to hear from you. It's important for me to understand what's going on in your lives, the lives of the people that you know, and please don't be shy about talking about it. But let me just start off by picking up a theme that all three of the panelists talked about, that is healthcare. We spend twice as much per person on healthcare as do the people of any other country. Do you all know that? Okay. So it's like I bought a car for $50,000. Judy buys a car for $25,000. Her car runs better than my car. So the question that we have to ask ourselves is, why do we spend so much money, almost $11,000 for every man, woman, and child in this country, an enormous sum of money. Twice the amount that they spend in Canada or other industrialized countries, and yet this is what you get. 87 million people uninsured, and you heard Judy's story about her son, or underinsured. You all know what underinsured means? It means statistically you have insurance. Doesn't mean you're able to go to the doctor when you should, because you have a high deductible and a co-payment that you may not be able to afford. In America today, Judy talked about the situation her son underwent in LA. Hard to believe this is the United States of America, not a third world country. And yet 30,000 Americans die each year because they don't get to a doctor on time. Go talk to your doctor and say, by the way, doctor, has anyone ever come into you much later than they should have because they didn't have insurance or they're underinsured, and did their illness become terminal? And your doctor will tell you, yeah, that happens all of the time. So what happens today is somebody is feeling sick and they're saying, I don't feel good, I'm gonna get better. I don't want to go to the doctor. I don't have the $200 that I need. My deductible is there. I'm worried about the kids. I'm not going to go to the doctor. They walk to the doctor 6 months later, and it may be terminal. 30,000 people a year die as a result of that. And here is another astounding fact. And the cruelty of this is unimaginable. Think for a moment you're a working class person in Iowa or Vermont. You don't have good insurance. And you end up with being diagnosed with cancer or some other terrible illness. You go to the doctor, you get the treatment that you need, you come out with a bill of a few $100,000. How do you pay that bill? You don't pay that bill. And what happens when you don't pay the bill? You go bankrupt, or your credit rating is shot.
Yeah.
So that you now are going to have to pay outrageously high interest rates if you can borrow any money at all. Your life has been significantly altered. Now think about it for a moment. Somebody gets diagnosed, and it happens every minute of every day, with a terrible illness. So what goes through your mind? What goes through your mind is, all right, how do I get well? What treatment do I take? What doctor do I go to? What hospital do I go? You got a lot of things that you have to deal with. How do I get back on my feet? You should not have to worry that your family is going to go bankrupt. Why? Because you were diagnosed with a terrible illness. The terrible illness is bad enough. That's what you should focus on, not the financial ruin of your family. And yet, in our country, some 500,000 people a year go bankrupt because of medically related bills. And others do not, get hounded by bill collectors, and their credit scores are shot. That is a cruel system. The other side of the equation there, and why we have this system, is that last year, the healthcare industry, the insurance companies and the drug companies made over $100 billion in profit. Their CEOs make outrageous levels of compensation. 6 drug companies last year made $69 billion in profit, while you pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. A few months ago, took a trip from Detroit with a number of diabetics in the Midwest over to Canada. We bought insulin, same exact product sold in the United States. Anybody here know the differential in price for insulin in Canada as opposed to the US? 1/10. We pay 10 times more for the same product a few miles north of here, because the drug companies have spent $4 billion over the last 20 years in campaign contributions and lobbyists to make sure that they have the freedom to charge you any price they possibly can, and that is exactly what they are doing. And right now, you turn on your TV here in Iowa, and you're going to see ads telling you how bad Medicare for all is. Oh my God, how bad it is. Do you all know who's paying for those ads? It is the drug companies and the insurance companies who made $100 billion in profits. So this whole debate that you're reading about in the papers, see it on TV, has nothing to do with healthcare. This system cannot be rationally defended. You cannot spend twice as much as the people of any other country and have so many people uninsured, underinsured, and going bankrupt. The issue here is a simple issue. The drug companies and the insurance companies are making enormous profits, and Medicare for all will end the profiteering. So let me, in a nutshell here, tell you what Medicare for all is. Medicare right now is a good program. Seniors enjoy it. It's the most popular health insurance program we have, but it is far from perfect. Too much out-of-pocket expenses. And as I think it was Kay said, or Tom said, I don't remember, it does not cover dental care. Dental care, a big issue? Yeah. Denture's an expensive proposition. Doesn't cover hearing aids. That's a big deal, yeah? Eyeglasses are expensive. Our proposal covers dental care, hearing aids, eyeglasses. You know what else it covers? Home health care.
That's a big one.
What Medicare for all does, and we're building on what the Canadians have done for decades. We have a better program than they have. This is what it says. Freedom of choice. You go to any doctor, any hospital you want. Same doctor, same hospital. Difference is you have a different color card. It's called Medicare for All. You do not pay any more premiums. Gone. You don't pay any more co-payments. Gone. You have no more deductibles. You think about the insanity of a system. And we'll talk about, I'd like to hear what kind of deductibles people here have. But people have $5,000, $10,000. You pay out of your own pocket until you spend the $5,000 or $10,000. No more deductibles, no more out-of-pocket expenses. And because we are going to substantially lower the cost of drugs in America, nobody in this country will pay more than $200 a year for the prescription drugs they need. And then on top of all of that, the average American will pay substantially less for health care than he or she is paying right now. Yes, you will pay more depending on your income. We exempt the first $29,000 from taxation. So you're making $29,000, you don't pay a penny. You make $30,000, you pay on $1,000. You make $60,000, which is what the typical American family makes. You pay on $31,000. My guess is we'll probably have a 4% income tax on that $31,000, $1,200 a year for comprehensive health care designed for you for your entire lifetime. How's that? So I'm not going to say that it is free. Nothing is free. Healthcare is expensive. But when we do away with the profiteering of the insurance companies and the drug companies, and when we do with the incredible administrative waste, think for a moment. We got hundreds and hundreds of separate insurance programs in America. You have a $5,000 deductible. You are in this network. You are in that network. You cover this prescription drugs. You have this premium price. You have that premium price. You have that copayment. You got that. To administer that nightmare requires the expenditure of hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Think for a moment. Somebody trying just to administer the different healthcare programs that you have right now. And then you got a hospital out there. You don't have any health insurance. You come in, they're treating you for free. That's the law. You have a good health insurance program, but guess what? Your prices are going up because she doesn't have any health insurance. You are a big company and a big insurance. You can get prescription drugs for a lower price than he does because he's out there just by himself. So you got 87 different levels of prescription drug costs in America. It is chaos. It is an administrative nightmare, and it costs us hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to administer that. Our system is a simple system. You walk into the doctor's office and say, "Hello, doctor." You get examined and you leave. That's about it. Your doctor worries about you. I just spoke to a doctor an hour ago. She spends 30% of her time dealing with administration. That's gone. The doctor now has the time to treat you and not have to argue with the insurance companies. And imagine that you don't have to argue with the insurance companies. Yeah. How's that? The plan is simple. Here it is. People say Bernie's idea is going to disrupt the healthcare system. It is the simplest idea out there. Right now, you get into Medicare when you're 65. What we do in year one, you go to 55. Think about all the folks out there. How many of your friends would love to be in Medicare today? They will be on year one. Year two, 45. Year three, 35. Year four, everybody's in it. A 4-year transition period, and we expanded to cover home health care, hearing aids, eyeglasses, dental care. That's it. Simple program. Okay, there's a lot of issues raised by the panel. I'm happy to take any questions or comments, but what I would like to do is I would like, if it's okay with you, to ask you a question. You guys answer me, and then you ask us a question, and I'll do my best to answer it. Talk to me about some of the issues that you, family members, friends, have had to deal with the current healthcare system. Who wants to talk about that? Yeah, ma'am. Stand up. Give us your name if you could, please. I think we got a mic there. Yes.
Hi, my name is Sophia Mahaffey. I oversee the Meals on Wheels program here at Horizon.
Please.
because of that, the nursing home that she was in decided that she was too great a risk for them to keep in their establishment. So they asked us to find a new place for her to be. So unfortunately, she ended her life 4 hours away from all of her family, and none of us could be there when she passed because the only place that would take her was so far away. So that's a situation that happened in our family. Do I get to ask my question now, or do I have to wait to raise my hand?
You're standing up, you got the mic, ask your question.
Okay. Like I said, sorry, is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. So like I said, I oversee Meals on Wheels here. About 75% of our clients are partially covered by the Older Americans Act that covers about half the cost of their meal. The other 25% are currently covered by the elderly waiver on Medicaid. That covers closer to the actual cost of the meal. However, in 2016, our state switched over to managed care. We've had some bumps in the road along the way. We've had some companies leave the state. So my question is, will Medicare for All also cover meals?
Medicare for All will not cover meals, but what I will do as president is make sure that we adequately fund the Older Americans Act. All right, now, I don't know if everybody knows what the congregate meal program is. The congregate meal program, which I have right here, and it's a very large program. What do you have, many people every day?
Every day, 5
All
days
right.
a week.
All right, and you work for that, right? Okay. So what it is a very sensible program which says that seniors need to have at least one good quality meal. And in addition to that, it gives them the opportunity to socialize, which is terribly important because a lot of seniors become lonely and they become alienated and so forth. It's a good program. The problem is the government only pays, what would you say, Kay, 2/3 of the cost of the meal? Half the cost of the meal. All right, I am on that committee. I used to chair the subcommittee. And I'm trying to do everything I can for the government to pay 100% of the cost of that meal. And I want you to have the opportunity to provide more meals for more people. And then you got the Meals on Wheels program, which is, again, a very smart program and a cost-effective program. Your seniors are not getting the nutrition they need. If somebody doesn't check up on them every day, they could fall, they could hurt themselves. So it pays for itself many times over. Under my administration, I promise you, we will adequately fund the Older Americans Act, congregate meals, Meals on Wheels. These are good investments. You know, this is a very simple moral issue. People 80, 90 years old should not have to go hungry in America. We should not have waiting lines as like how do you do right here. I know in Vermont we do. Waiting lines for Meals on Wheels. I don't know, in Vermont we have wonderful volunteers. They're out in their cars delivering meals to people, beautiful people. But they need some help as well. It is not too much to say that in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, all of our seniors should live out their last years with security and dignity and with decent nutrition. That's what we will do. Okay. Anything on your mind, but I'd like to say a little bit on health issues. How is my colleagues in the Senate, the industry tells us we've got the greatest healthcare system in the world. Anybody want to disagree with that and tell me why? Yes, ma'am. Get her a mic right there.
Right behind you.
It's coming. Your name?
My name is Amanda. So for the majority of my adolescence, I have struggled with various mental health problems. I used to live in Texas. Basically, I was a child of the system, and I went in and out of places that were ineffective, that my private insurance dropped me prematurely when I was not ready to be released, not safe, and I would fall back into a group home or a residential treatment center. So my question for you, Bernie, is why did it take so long for me to find a treatment center that could help, and what is your plan?
Good. Thank you very much, Amanda, and thank you for standing tall and for overcoming the struggles that you have had to go through. Okay. We've heard once, we've heard twice already in the few minutes we've been talking, mental health. Mental health is a huge crisis in this country. We have not even begun to address it. Okay, I get calls in my Senate office in Vermont from people who say to my staff, they say, I am worried, woman calls up, I'm worried about my brother. I don't know what he's going to do to himself or to somebody else. We cannot find the treatment he needs at a cost that we can afford. It's insane. Mental health is an illness. You break your leg, that's an illness. You have cancer, that is an illness. You have mental health issues, that is an illness. And that is why that under Medicare for All, Amanda, and I'm not going to tell you it happens tomorrow, we need an enormous increase in the number of treatment centers that we have, in the number of psychologists and psychiatrists and pediatric psychiatrists that we need. We don't have enough. Because this system is not geared to deal with the problems facing the American people, it's geared to make money for people on top in the industry. All right, so transformation is not gonna happen tomorrow. But our job is to deal with treatment. We have an opioid epidemic in this country. Addiction, by the way, whether it's opioids, other drugs, whether it's alcohol, that is tough stuff. Probably in this room, there are people who have had to deal with addiction. It is very hard stuff. Those people need support, they need treatment. In almost every state in this country, the treatment is inadequate. So we will invest in doctors, in nurses, in treatment, and we will have the funds to do it because we're gonna have a non-bureaucratic system that does not waste hundreds of billions of dollars on administration, but can fund the doctors and the counselors that we need. So our goal, what Medicare for All's goal is, not to make money for the insurance companies, it's to provide quality care to all people, including those who are struggling with mental illness. All right, here's a question for you, all right? Why do we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs? Why do we pay 10 times more than the Canadians do for insulin? Anyone have a thought on? Give me an answer. Greed is an answer. Yeah, but it's not the only answer. Greed exists all over the world. Yes, sir. Stand up. Get this gentleman a mic here, please. Okay.
Well, clearly I'm Frederick Jones.
Frederick, turn to the folks.
Oh, it's essentially the lobbyist and the industry that's paying for the lobbyist and donating to political campaigns. And Supreme Court decisions have been handed down in the past few years, Citizens United and some different ones that say a dollar bill is equivalent to freedom of speech and that a corporation is the same legally as a flesh and blood human being. Now, if I owned a corporation, I could go vote. Nobody takes that right away from me. I get, double jeopardy or whatever you want to call it, an extra influence in the decision-making process by being able to have a lobbyist and the whole thing.
Frederick is exactly right. All right, hear this. Over the last 20 years, the pharmaceutical industry itself, 20 years, has spent over $4 billion on lobbying and campaign contributions. That is why they can charge you any price they want for the medicine that you need. Every other country in the world says, sorry, we're going to sit down and negotiate a price. And that's why insulin in this country is 10 times more than in Canada, as is the case with many, many other drugs. Okay, other healthcare story, anyone want to talk about it? I see a gentleman back there. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
My name is Jorge. I am volunteering for you, Bernie, knocking doors and making phone calls. And something about related what is going on is that I found a lot of frustration and angriness, and people don't want to go to vote anymore because they're really devastated about what is going on with politicians. And when I knock doors too, I found people very sick with terminal illness, and there's a lot of confusion about your program. And they say, I don't want my benefits to take away from this Bernie Sanders program. So what you will respond about that, and what you will tell people is on the side and very angry and very frustrated about politics.
Good. Thank you. And you're right on both accounts. Look, this is why things don't get better in America. And healthcare is a perfect instance. Nobody can rationally defend the current system. You can't defend a system where you pay so much and it is so weak in many respects. The only reason it perpetuates itself is the power of the industry. Those are the ads you're seeing on television right now. Some CEO makes $10, $20 million a year in a drug company, and they're putting these ads on the air out of the billions of dollars in profits that they make to tell you not to move to Medicare for all. That is what we're up against. And I do understand. You know, and now the good news is that we have come a long way over the last few years. A majority of the American people now support Medicare for all, despite the lies of the industry and the lack of, I think, good coverage we're getting from the media about what Medicare for all is. So we're kind of winning, but we have a long way to go. The second point you make is an equally important point, more important. A lot of people are giving up on the political process, and I thank you for knocking on doors for us. A lot of people are giving up because they look around them and they say, I don't have any health care. I'm paying half of my income for housing. My car is breaking down, but I'm only making $10 an hour. I can't afford to get the car fixed. My kids are worse off than I was. Who gives a damn about me? Who gives a damn about me? Why the hell am I going to vote? That's really what they're feeling. And the only thing that I can tell you is that change will never take place unless we organize those people and give them hope, and we give them hope by doing the things they need to be done. All right? It's tough stuff. The system does not want them to vote. That's why Republicans all over this country are trying to suppress the vote. They're telling young people, don't vote, politics is nonsense. Meanwhile, as you indicated, Frederick, billionaires will spend hundreds of millions of dollars on elections. So what our campaign is about is working as hard as we can to reach out to low-income people, marginalized communities, people of color, older people, young people, to say that if you don't get involved in the political process, you're going to have a handful of billionaires continuing to run this country. You think about it for a moment. You got 2 Republican senators here in Iowa. Now, I don't know all of the details in terms of their record, but the Republican leadership in the Senate, this is what they believe. They believe we should give tax breaks to billionaires and cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. How many people in Iowa believe that? You got a president and Senate in the United States Senate. There has not been one substantive bill getting to the floor of the Senate to deal with the global crisis of climate change. There's not been my bill passed the House to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. You think the people of Iowa want to see a $15 an hour bill? I think so. Ain't going to make it to the floor. And that is because under Republican leadership in the Senate, and I'm not here to tell you the Democrats are perfect by any means, but under Republican leadership, the decisions that are being made, the legislation that comes up, benefits the wealthy and the powerful, and is paid for by large corporations and their campaign contributions. Now, how we take that on, man, that is hard. That is what struggle is about. And this campaign is asking a lot of people. I am asking you, yeah, help me win here in Iowa. Help me win the Democratic nomination. Help me defeat Trump. But I'm asking even more of you. I am telling you that the day after we are inaugurated, I cannot do it alone. Do you think we could take on the drug companies and Wall Street just by having a good president? No. We need a mass movement of millions of people so that your senators are going to look around them and say, oh my God, I better vote tomorrow to raise that minimum wage for $15 an hour. I better vote for Medicare for all, or I am going to be a very short-term U.S. Senator. All right? All right, other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, brown sweater.
So this is
Hold that mic a little bit closer.
This is partially related to healthcare, but my concern in the past couple of years is we have seen various pipelines pop up, and my main concern is for the rights of Indigenous Americans in this country, because in the past couple of years we have seen the continued cultural genocide by the government, by corporations, and my question is, how will you help pay reparations and increase clean drinking water across the country, and not just communities like Flint, but on reservations in Indigenous nations?
First name is?
Mariah.
Right. In fact, where's Jane? Jane, you here? Where'd my wife go? Not in the room? Okay. She has been actively involved in the pipeline issue as well, and reaching out to the Native American community. As I understand it, Keystone Pipeline just developed a leak the other day. Did you know that? Yes. Pumping huge amount of oil into, I guess, a sensitive ecological area. Look, I have introduced the strongest proposal ever introduced, $16 trillion proposal to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. We have a global crisis, and we must move away as rapidly as humanly possible if we're going to save this planet for our children and our grandchildren, okay? So, as somebody who has opposed these pipelines, Keystone and other pipelines, all right, I oppose them because we got to break our dependence on fossil fuel. Iowa is doing a good job in terms of wind. You get 35% of your electricity from wind. That's good. We got to do better. And we got to make sure that all over this country we get solar, we get wind, we got geothermal, and other sustainable energies. Second point, talk about the Native American people. It's an issue we have worked on. The Native American people are a small number of people today who have suffered unbelievably from the first days when the settlers came here. No question about that. Terrible, terrible, unspeakable things have been done to them. Treaties that were signed were broken, lie after lie after lie. And right now, as you are indicating, on Native American land, there is excavation going on, which is impacting the quality of their water, their ability to fish, their ability to hunt, et cetera, et cetera. And I have spoken often to the Native American people. They will, instead of being ignored, they will be brought in to the process. And I will do everything I can to protect the integrity of their lands. They will be involved in the decision-making, not the CEOs in the fossil fuel industry. Do I see a hand right there? Yes, ma'am.
Hi there. I'm excited for you to be our future president of the United States.
Thank you. And I'm excited to learn your name.
Elisa.
Elisa? Elisa.
Yeah. And I'm also, as the president of the United States, you're also a world leader. And there are a lot of people around the world, a lot of seniors around the world who are very vulnerable as a direct result of U.S. foreign policy. And right now there's somewhere around 70 million refugees, as I would argue a direct result of our foreign policy. There are a lot of women and children and older people and people with disabilities who are displaced, who are very vulnerable. And I'm wondering what you will do to support those people, how you will plan to reduce our military actions, our military presence around the world, and decrease our $720 billion military budget.
Good. Thank you very much, Elisa. Let me just say, you've raised a question that could go on, we could discuss for hours, but let me just briefly say this. All right, you're looking at a guy who literally a few weeks after he was elected to the United States Congress, 1991, voted against the first Gulf War. You're looking at a guy who not only voted against the war in Iraq, but helped lead the opposition to the war in Iraq. And go to YouTube, and gives me no pleasure to mention this, but much of what I said about what I thought would happen as a result of the war, the destabilization and the migrations and the deaths, in fact, happened, all right? Yeah. You're looking at the only candidate for President of the United States who voted against all of Donald Trump's military budgets.
That's right.
So, you know, when Kay talks about needing, or Alyssa talks about needing funding for congregate meals or Meals on Wheels, I can't recall what that budget is, but it is nickels and dimes. Meanwhile, we have substantially, under Trump, expanded military spending so that we are now spending more than the next 10 nations combined, somewhere around $750 billion a year. And you are looking at a Department of Defense, which is the only major agency of the federal government that has not undergone successfully an independent audit. Yeah. So the cost overruns are enormous. The waste, the corruption is significant. There's no major defense contractor that has not been found guilty of intentionally jacking up pricing or price fixing or other illegal actions. Okay? So the answer is obviously we need a strong defense, but we do not have to spend 10 times, we don't have to spend more than the next 10 nations combined. Furthermore, as somebody who voted against the war in Iraq, I will do my best to end endless wars and to bring our troops home in a responsible way. That does not mean based on a tweet at 3 o'clock in the morning. All right? Okay, sir, right here, you got a question? Let's get him a mic. Your mic is coming.
My name is Doug. And Bernie, let's get back to healthcare. Kind of a twist on that. A lot of people here in the area, across the nation.
Mike, hold up, Mike.
A lot of people in the nation and in the area are concerned and or questioned. As a matter of fact, I just had questioned this last week. Can you tell us how you feel, what the prognosis of your heart attack, and the future of Bernie as far as your health care, Bernie?
Thanks, Doug. Let me say this for a start. I am so appreciative for the incredible number of folks who are praying for me and for the well wishes we received from all over the country. So I want to thank everybody for their prayers. Doug, I had a heart procedure. 2 stents were placed in my artery. One of the arteries was blocked. I was out of the hospital in 2.5 days, kind of walking after 1 day. The procedure that I had occurs about 1 million times a year. It's not an uncommon procedure. I am feeling, hey, it's my 5th event of the day. All right. Got a little tired, but you would too. And on top of that, my wife forced me to go out for a long walk. I'm feeling good. And we're back on the campaign trail full time. And there you go. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but, you know, I am what I am. But look, I would not have run for office, you know, obviously. The presidency of the United States is a difficult job. It is a stressful job. Not all of us will spend half our life playing golf in Mar-a-Lago. Some of us will actually pay attention to the job. And when you do that, it's pretty hard. But I would not, and let me answer it in 2 ways. Obviously, I would not have begun the campaign unless I thought I could do the job. And second point I want to make, Doug, running for president, as all of you know, is a very, very difficult undertaking. And it's not only the meetings you do and the traveling that you do, or the ugliness and the lies that come against you or your family. It's tough. But the reason I chose to run, and this was a family decision, Jane and I went around the block on this issue many times, was twofold. Number one, in my heart of hearts, what I believe is that I am, there are other good candidates out there. Almost all of these Democratic candidates are personal friends of mine. So I know them all and I like them all. And if I am not the nominee, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that one of them becomes president of the United States. So I am not here to denigrate any of these people, some great people out there. I honestly believe that I am the strongest candidate to defeat the most dangerous president in the nation. But second of all, in my thoughts about why I want to run, defeating Trump is enormously important. But I believe we have got to do more than just defeat Trump. So I'm not coming here to tell you, vote for me, I'll defeat Trump. We have got to transform this country. And you've heard the reasons why elderly people should not go hungry in America. People with mental illness should be able to get the help they need. 500,000 people should not be sleeping out on the street when the rich and large corporations, in some cases, pay nothing in federal income taxes. We should not spend more than the next 10 countries on the military when half of our people are working paycheck to paycheck. So, what I believe is Trump is, in a sense, not really an aberration. I think he is the result of the pain and frustration. Just talked to a guy today, we're having a cup of coffee, and I talked to a guy who voted for Trump. And I don't think he loves Trump, and he thinks Trump's a liar. But I think he looked out around the political world, and he said, in so many words, who cares about me? The whole system is corrupt. At least Trump will get up there and kind of scramble everything up. All right, well, we need somebody to make real change, but not change that benefits the rich and the powerful, change that benefits working people. So I'm running for two reasons. Number one, we have got to defeat Trump. Number two, we must create an economy and a government whose policies work for you and not just wealthy campaign contributors. That's why I'm running. I see a hand over there. Yeah. Stand up, please. Yes. No. Yeah, the fellows. Yeah.
Now, Bernie, obviously, the Electoral College is a term that gets thrown around a lot in today's political climate. And I was wondering, what are your opinions on this? Because it doesn't seem very fair when a Wyomingite's vote counts almost 3 or 4 times more than someone who lives in New York, or a senator can gerrymander any state they want so that they'll get elected to almost time and time again because the districts that they reside over are almost 100% Republican or Democrat.
All right, you're conflating a couple of issues, but your point is well taken. All right, actually, somebody from Wyoming, or I may say from Vermont, has more than 4 times the power of somebody in California. What do they got in California, 38 million or something, anyone know? Yeah. Okay, in Vermont we have 620,000 people. Both states have 2 senators. All right, but more importantly, the point you raised is last election, let us not forget, Donald Trump lost the popular vote by 3 million votes. That's a lot of votes. Wasn't even close. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. And Donald Trump is the president because, as you have indicated, we have an electoral college. So in a sense, we don't have a national election, we have 50 state elections. Many of the states are strongly Democrat. Democratic candidates are going to win Vermont, going to win Massachusetts, going to win New York, no question about it. Republican candidates are going to win Wyoming, they're going to win South Dakota, they're going to win Republican states. So one of the problems is that in many ways, the presidential election comes down to 15 states. 35 states are going to be Democrat or Republican. What about those states? Do they have a right to hear from the candidates? Now, Iowa is in a different situation. Everybody loves Iowa. I wonder why. Must be the pork chops, I don't know. But We have 15 states in this country that are battleground states. Iowa is one of them. Iowa obviously is the first caucus, so everybody is here. But what we need is, I think, a national electoral system which recognizes that every one of us who votes has equal say in the future of this country. So I do have a problem with a system in which, on more than one occasion, Al Gore was the same thing. Al Gore won a majority, or at least more votes than his opponent. So there's something wrong when somebody wins the popular vote and does not become president. It is an issue that definitely must be dealt with.
My name's Deanna, and I'd like to talk about Alzheimer's.
Good.
My husband was 52, was finally diagnosed at 62. He's 68 now. Recently went into nursing home care. And what I'm finding is that dealing with the disease itself is hard, but dealing with all the red tape that goes along with all the other stuff is very difficult. I understand that a lot of the nursing homes, they put a sign up and say, you know, they're memory care, but they're not really memory care because there's no standardization for those places. So when someone has Alzheimer's, sometimes they have some behaviors that are a little different than other people. They can decide who they want to keep in care and who they don't, and if they don't want them anymore, they can kick them out. I know of one woman had her husband in 5 different places. My husband was kicked out of his. They said he needed to be medicated, made me take him to a psychiatric ward. We sat in that office in the emergency room of one of the hospitals for 2 days. They would not help with any medicine. They said, well, we can't try any medicines for him because he doesn't have a room. Well, there are no beds for this man to be in because there's problems with the mental health. He went 3 hours away in the middle of the night 2 days later without my knowledge. And this is, now I've got him in a different location that is going better, but I'd like to know what your thoughts are about dealing with Alzheimer's.
Can I ask you a question? If you don't feel comfortable, don't answer it, obviously.
And it's $7,000 a month. And I'm trying to work, and I'm caring for my dad that has AML leukemia, acute leukemia, and my mother is on hospice. And there's an issue there as well in the nursing home paying for her, and she is in extreme pain all the time, and they will only give him so much morphine. She lays and cries because she might get addicted. The woman's 80-some years old. I mean, really.
How did you, if I may?
Yes.
Your husband is now dealing with Alzheimer's. Yeah?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about the process of finding him a place where you thought he would be comfortable.
It was very hard. I will say that when the way we found out was he had been tested. I received the doctor's report in the mail at home, and it said Alzheimer's, early onset Alzheimer's. Gee, what's that? Started looking into that, and I literally had to, find the information on my own by myself, looking at different places. There's rules and regulations to all these places, and really, I mean, they're nice people. They get written up for touching a door that they're not supposed to go out of, but there's no sign on it. It doesn't say stop, and they're not going to remember that they're not supposed to put their hand on the door. Really, do we need medication for that? So it's hard enough to deal with the disease, but all the red tape that I've had to deal with and dealing with this over the last few years has been terrible. And I would like to say that I would like to continue to have the NIH funded because we don't currently have any medicines to deal with it, to treat it, to cure it. We've got nothing to work with. My husband's had it for 16 years. We still don't have any medication for it. 16 years of wasted time. And I'm also afraid that at some point when we do find a cure for it, I won't be able to afford the medicine anyway. Thank you. Thank you.
You're paying, was it, I hear $7,000 a month? Yeah. you know. You are, that's right. Look, and I'm not going to tell you, we're going to snap our fingers and everything is perfect. But getting back, and I don't want to be overly simplistic or rhetorical, healthcare, whether it is Alzheimer's, whether it's heart attack, whether it is a broken leg, whether it is mental illness, healthcare is a human right, all right? As a wife, I can only imagine what you're dealing with right now, right? Just the reality of dealing with your husband, right? That is more than a person should have to go through. To throw on the financial burden on top of that and worrying about the rest of your family and having to work as hard as you do is not what we should be doing in a civilized, democratic society. All right, so I'm not here to make you magical promises, but I am here to say that Medicare for all would create a situation where you don't have to take out your wallet. All right, you're not going to have to pay that $94,000 a year. And obviously, we will start investing in those areas, whether it's mental health, whether it is nursing home, whether it's home health care, where we're now not paying the attention that we deserve. I'm sure it is not going to transform the world tomorrow, but it will go a long, long way to make your life and your husband's life a lot easier. That's what we have to do as a nation. All right, I've got to get going soon. I want to thank everybody for coming out to talk about enormously important issues. And let me conclude with this. Nelson Mandela, who all of you know is one of the great heroes of the 20th century, who spent half his life in jail fighting apartheid. When Nelson Mandela said, very profound statement, he said, "Everything is impossible until it is done." Everything is impossible until it is done. What did he mean by that? What he meant by that is that until it is done, it seems that it just can never be done. How does it happen that our neighbors in Canada can provide health care to all people at half the cost per capita and nobody has to take out their wallet? That was a political decision they made 30 or 40 years ago, and it's a decision that every other major country on earth has made. Why are we the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee health care at all? Are we dumb? Are we incompetent? Are we incapable? I don't think so. It has everything to do with the TV ads you're seeing tonight on television. It's the power of the healthcare industry, okay? Why do we not have public colleges and universities tuition free so that our kids don't have to leave school with huge student debt? Why do you have workers? I spoke to a woman here in Des Moines, makes $10 an hour trying to take care of 3 kids. Can't do it. Why don't we have a living wage that is livable? We can accomplish these goals if we have the willingness to take on powerful special interests whose greed is destroying the working families of this country. CEOs should not be making tens of millions of dollars a year. Healthcare industry should not be making $100 billion a year when people are paying $94,000 a year for nursing home care. Shouldn't be the case. All right? So we need to think big. We need to develop policy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. And I know that's I know some of it, it seems too radical or whatever it may be. We can do this thing. You go to Norway. Anybody know in Norway, if you have a baby, how much time you get off for paid family leave? Anyone know? You get about a year off at 80% pay. How's that? All right? So how could they do it in Norway and variations of that in every other country on it? We're the only major country. Women have babies here and go back to work in a week or 2. All right? And meanwhile, they can't find affordable child care. But we do have enough money for endless wars. All right? We can change these things when people are prepared to stand up. The system wants you to believe you are powerless. We cannot make the changes. Media wants you to believe that. Political establishment wants you to believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But that's what this campaign is asking of you. I'm not only asking you to elect me, of course I am, but I'm asking you to do more. If I get elected and we're not able to transform this country, then I will have failed. Our job is to stand together by the millions, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, to stand together to fight for a government and an economy that works for all of us. So let's go forward together and do just that. Thank you, panelists. Thank you so much.